Oh, good evening, bats and ghouls. Yes, we are one day late, but it is still early at the same time. For right now, it is 40 years. Yes, I count 40 years since the epic release of Bela Lugosi's dead. Join me in the celebration of the music for the children of the night. Cheers. Hey guys, I hope that opening was not too corny. I just was trying to get in the mood a little bit because Bela Lugosi's dead. Bauhaus's seminal recording. It's so influential in so many different parts of both the goth subculture and pop culture and even elements of mainstream society that the fact that we've hit 40 years and clubs and general population knows what this song is and what it is about and what it comes from. It's just a fascinating footnote in music history and pop culture history. So, I'm having my own little party to celebrate Bela Lugosi's dead and kind of reflect back about what the song means to me. It means something different, I'm sure, to everybody, but for me, I have to give a little bit of history on the song and my interaction with it, and then kind of consider like where it's framed within the goth subculture. The song came out August 6, 1979. It was written by David J. or David Haskins of Bauhaus. The lyrics were, and then the other band members contributed their own pieces. It was recorded, I believe it was like January, December timeframe. And it stemmed from David J. being in the cold, bleak British winter, having nothing to watch really but his love of old vampire movies, and that was the inspiration, the genesis of that song. He got on the phone with Daniel Ash, and they kind of went back and forth, and they thought, hey, like this could be something we could explore as a musical theme in one of our songs. Bauhaus itself was not based around vampires, though that song definitely kind of puts them in that realm. It is one of those songs that, you know, this band who had come out of England was mainly a post-punk band. They were highly influenced by glam rock, by punk music. They, took their name from the German architecture movement, Bauhaus. It was a German art school. They had all these very artsy, unique influences going on around them that was very avant-garde for the time. And when that song hit, it was a single. It wasn't even off of an album. I don't believe it's been on any of their 4 full-length albums that I could find. They put the single out, and music critics were kind of confounded and flabbergasted all at the same time by what this song was. And that's where the term Gothic rock came from. They thought that that label fit perfectly for it. The song itself, Bauhaus has gone on many times to say, especially Peter Murphy, that he didn't really like the goth label, but it fits that mode. Even though they sometimes claim the song was written in camp, they did it all in one take. By the way, they claim they recorded it all in one clear take. It's a song that, despite Bauhaus's, or more specifically Peter Murphy's, insistence that it's a parody and it was not really to be taken seriously, if you watch any of his performances of it, if you listen to the music, there's definitely not a lot of tongue-in-cheek put in there. I mean, it's very subtle, dry tongue-in-cheek, but it's not tongue-in-cheek. And it's not to say that goth should be taken like uber seriously, but the song is not as campy as perhaps like say something that came out of somebody like the Cramps or other acts coming around that same era, the early days of goth and goth rock. So where that song is framed within the subculture, most people in goth communities tend to view it as like this high reverence of a song, and it is a fun song. Coming in, I believe, at just like over 9 minutes. Somebody can fact check me on this, but I mean that's a long song, and it's so atmospheric that even when you get to Peter Murphy's wailings and bellowings of the words for the song, everything else that goes with it is just so spooky. I've read things where DJs will throw on the song and they'll just use that as an opportunity to go take a bathroom break because it is so long-winded. Okay, so that's the creation of the song. That's where things are kind of set within the subculture. Critics liked it initially. It picked up a following, though I don't believe it charted at all in any of the pop charts, and that's okay. Like, Bauhaus didn't, I don't think they were looking for full-on mainstream success, but it definitely found an audience, and it spawned an entire subculture. I was reading a college paper about the song in preparation for this video, and they talked about how, if you look at Bela Lugosi's Dead and you look at Bauhaus as an act, like, you could frame it as you've got The Cure on one end, who's kind of more like, over the top gloom and doom goth in their early phases, that uber melancholy feel, and then you've got like a band like Joy Division who takes that like minimal aesthetic, the dark and gloomy, but they're more serious about it, and Bauhaus kind of fits like right in the middle of it. And I think, to me, like, reading that as I thought about it, I'm like, that's very apropos for that statement. So where was I in 1979? I know a lot of the people that watch YouTube, probably many of my viewers, were either not born yet or they were very small. August 6, 1979, I was 4. So I would have had no clue who Bauhaus was. I certainly wasn't, my parents weren't in that kind of scene. I don't think I had any babysitters or anybody remotely involved in that scene. So that scene was totally foreign to me. I did not encounter Bauhaus officially until about 1992, and that was through a friend who, they had a vinyl of, I want to say it was Mask, and I listened to it, and I just was like, it was so dark and so heavy and so overwhelming and so in your face and so gloom ridden, and it resonated. And it's weird, like, I'm one of those goths, like, I found The Cure and Susie Sue, and like Bauhaus kind of was like the later part of my goth discovery. So when I found them in 92, I remember hearing Bela Lugosi's Dead, and I know it's not on an album. I want to say it might have been on just the singles, and I think at first I was kind of put off by the song because it was so long. We're in this like super fast age of, like, even if you go back to the 50s, like, most songs, 3 to 4 minutes, you're done, and here we are going on for like 9 minutes of like these swirling sounds and the cacophony that's being created by the bass and the drums and the that steady drum beat and like all of it. So I didn't really care for it. I liked Bauhaus's other works. I really liked Double Dare, and I liked In the Flat Field. Bela Lugosi's Dead took a while to resonate with me, but once it did, it stuck, and then it kind of became cliche, So I ran a Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game. Like, it's like, if you're not familiar with it, it's like Dungeons and Dragons. You have pen and paper, or pencil and paper, and you have dice you roll, but you play your character out. And the vampire game, which is a very heavily gothic punk influence game, especially the earlier versions of it. Uh, like they even recommend soundtracks of like Sisters of Mercy and the Swans and Susie and the Banshees. Well, I have my own little soundtrack playing for the people playing the game with me that would play in the background, and of course Bela Lugosi's Dead would always play on it. I would listen to it in the car. I would listen to like you couldn't go to a club and not hear it. At least like either the beginning of the night or the end of the night. So this song has been with me. It's 40 years old, and the song has been with me now close to 30 years. Jeez, yeah, about 30 years. I still love it. Like I listened to it as I was getting ready for this video, and I'm like, it still resonates strongly. So it has a good heavy bond with me. Obviously, like I love Bauhaus. I got to see them perform it live back in '98 in Atlanta. That was a wonderful show. Like, Peter Murphy's performance with it, the guys playing in the background. As the front man, like he encapsulates like this, obviously like this spooky glam vampire overlord prince type of character when he's performing the song, and it's just amazing. Interestingly, again, as I was researching for the video, he had done Coachella back in 2008, and I guess they like suspended him about 3 feet above the stage, upside down, hanging like a bat, and he did the whole song that way. And I'm just like, that what was said in the interview in the article is like it could go like really wrong or it could go really right, and it sounds like it went really right from what the article said, but it's all these years later, like we still can't get enough of it. The fact that a song is having a 40th anniversary and people are talking about it, and it's still a relevant thing 40 years later for a subculture that is so often misunderstood and so often just pushed to the side unless it's for a media interview or article to talk about like the woes of a mass shooting or a satanic ritual that happens that they want to blame on the goth subculture. Bela Lugosi's Dead, Bauhaus, this song is still around and it's still going and it's still relevant today. So that's really cool. So, cheers. Now, with that, into pop culture, and I think I'm going to do a film look back on it at some point, but the movie The Hunger. It's a David Bowie movie, which ironically enough, we talk about Bauhaus having a glam influence in their presentation and their other parts of their work. The movie The Hunger is a vampire film. It's one that I'll review and talk about on this because I haven't watched it in like, oh god, 10, 15 years. It came out in the early 80s. It was directed by Tony Scott, brother of Ridley Scott, who did the Alien movies. Tony is a competent director. Bauhaus is in the opening of the movie. Like the vampire characters are at a goth nightclub. Everybody's like super sleek looking, and Bauhaus is doing Bela Lugosi's Dead. And I just, it's kind of ironic and fitting for the film. And, you've seen probably GIFs on Facebook for it or on Tumblr of like, Peter Murphy with his jacket, all pulled back up. Let's see if we can get this. He's got it all bat-like up, like he's got wings and he's flying around, and and he's holding on to this like they're in like a cage, and he's like hanging on the fence, and he's being Peter Murphy, doing his Peter Murphy moves, and it's a great performance for like maybe 3 minutes during the opening credits, and obviously the song resonated enough to put in the movie. So in pop culture, it's still very powerful. There have been many bands that have re-recorded the song, done their take on it. It's been featured in TV shows and of course, like I said, with The Hunger and movies. So it's an important thing to look at, that this kind of carved out what the sound of goth music would be, goth rock music, and I think anybody watching A Goth in an Alcove, this channel, and you can see I like Bauhaus a lot, and it's definitely a band that's made an impact on my life and on a lot of people's lives. It's helped form a whole subculture, and as we all incessantly debate about what goth is and what isn't, we can all at least agree that Bauhaus is the seminal gothic rock band. So here's to another 40 years of Bela Lugosi's Dead and to Bauhaus. Cheers.